I want to talk about U.S. cash. Cash money. Let's break it down.
$931.4 million. That's how much the Federal Reserve will spend to print bills in 2023. But there's a problem with U.S. cash.
We haven't modernized or changed our currency. That's probably a mistake.
For example,
we should have dollar coins instead of paper notes.
Physical currency has changed around the world, but not in the U.S.
The Nordic countries, we see a move away from cash into digital. India had a government-sponsored program to eliminate small denominations of cash.
The rest of the world has moved towards polymer notes, which are a form of plastic, last something like 4 times as long as the old paper notes.
Meanwhile, an increasing number of Americans are ditching cash for electronic payments. The Pew Research Center found 41% of Americans in 2022 didn't use cash in a given week. That number rose from 29% in 2018. Still, cash demand is growing, and experts say it's not going away.
There's actually more cash in circulation today than ever.
Cash production has been growing year by year by 1.5 to 2%.
I always am wondering, and I'm trying to understand why people, and I understand the need for it, and I understand people's disposition behind the idea that they don't want to go over into a cashless society. Because a cashless society, okay, let me tell you the two rocks that I'm in between right here, right? On one hand, I could say that the federal government should be, not that I'm a fan of, but if it's in their best interest to push people over into a cashless society. Well, why is that, Anton? Because it allows for them to be able to track and pay attention to what money is going in where, make better decisions, and then also make sure that they get a fair share of revenue from the IRS as far as taxing people. Now, obviously, again, I'm not advocating for that, but I'm saying that if I'm the federal government, I'm pushing people over into a cashless society because on the other end of the spectrum, and this is the other part of the rock that I'm talking about, right? It's a lot of people that prefer to do business in cash because it's a way for you to not have to be able to track or be accountable for the amount of revenue that you're taking in, right? Being in a restaurant business and building my own restaurants and being invested as a silent investor in restaurants today has taught me a lot, right? Because it's one thing to invest in something and it's another thing to put your hands on it because now you start to understand every part of the process, right? And so I've had conversations with you guys before and I said, look, I learned how other people that didn't look like me was mastering the game as far as how they were able to still survive despite the fact that they had an inferior product, right? When I start breaking things down from a financial perspective, and if you're above board, you understand again, and I had this conversation with my bag chasers on a regular basis, that the cost of buying a particular product, let's just say a piece of chicken, is not just buying it at the manufacturing and then selling it for double the price. You can't buy it for $1 and you sell it for $2. You got to take into consideration insurance, unemployment insurance, worker compensation, loss and shrinkage as far as how many of it getting stolen, how many other pieces of chicken is getting burnt, electricity, rent, right? So many factors goes into the cost of being able to have an establishment, buy, sell, and then sell that, or buy, cook, and then sell that chicken over into the customer, that the true cost of buying a piece of chicken for $1 is really selling it for $5, right? And I'm using just general terms in order to have this conversation with you guys. But then I would go and I would say, okay, well, the real finesse, for example, is that a lot of these foreigners that create their own restaurants, and a lot of times they create these restaurants in order to generate revenue because they don't have any other skill set when they first get here. And it's the second generation that they then send to college that don't want to take over the business from their parents because they are now more educated and more suited to make more money, not depending on customers in order to patronize the business to survive, right? They work their own businesses. They don't hire people. They work it every single day. They may take off a week or two throughout the year or a month in order to go over to their mainland and go and visit back home because they send money back home. And then another way in which they make money is that they're not necessarily having the same cost that's associated with running a business as I am. Well, how is that, Anton? Well, because first of all, they're able to leverage the fact that they're not making income on a regular job to justify being able to get social services and help. They get free health care. They get help when it comes to their housing requirements. And then they're also getting food stamps. Well, how does food stamps factor into it? Well, most places accept food stamps. If you go over to Sam's Club, if you go over to Costco, they'll go over there and they'll get $2,000, $3,000 a month in benefits. And then they'll buy all of their items with food stamps. They'll buy a large majority of what it takes in order to run that restaurant with food stamps every single month. And so it's no cost associated with buying those products. But then at the same time, they'll sell them to you at the same price that I'm selling it for. And so if you look at it from a dope game perspective, right, that means that they skipping out and they actually getting their drugs for free and they selling the product over to the customers for cheaper than you can sell it for. But you got to meet that expectation, because when your customers come into the restaurant, they going to say, well, the Chinese people are selling it up the street for this amount. Why y'all so high? Now, you can't sit there and explain to them, well, they using their food stamps to go over there and buy it, and I actually generate a lot of revenue and I have to account for this and I don't want the IRS on my back. They just gonna say, y'all too expensive. That's what they say. I know, because I was in the restaurant business. I know, because I'm in the restaurant business. So they finesse it, and then when you go into the restaurant, they don't have the same payment system as you, right? Everything that you're doing is on and up and up. You got a Square system. You got this point of sale system. They may not be ringing it up because they run it every day. And so you come in and you pay cash, and it doesn't necessarily register, so they don't have to pay taxes on that money, and they just getting it straight into their pockets. So they buying it for nothing. They selling it for everything, and the only cost associated with it is actually running the business, right? And so when you have these conversations and you understand everything from a business perspective, and this is why I don't respect these OGs, right? I don't respect these people that's out here giving you advice. I don't respect these people that just got a degree, but they ain't never built a business, because whether you failed or whether you took it as a learning experience and leveraged it and put it into other things, because certain business lessons and principles expand across all factors and all areas in order for you to be successful. They never got the lesson, so they don't understand the business climate that comes along with having to build it from scratch, because they've never experienced it. See, what we have over in the Patreon and what we do on our mastermind sessions come from a space where we're actually experiencing doing it. So when you have a conversation with me and you say, Anton, what's the cost that's associated with building a home? Or what's the cost associated with building your own business? Or what's the cost associated with e-commerce versus a brick and mortar? We can break that down, and they can't. And this is why they've hit a ceiling a lot of times, because the information that they give you, even for free, is so limited and so surface level, and they can't deep dive into it to help you understand it, not only from a business perspective, but breaking it down to a C student's perspective, because they don't know it. They've never actually done it. This is why it takes 41 years to become 41 years old, because it takes a certain amount of time to get certain business lessons in order for me to become a life coach. I understand money on a level that you can't possibly understand it, because you've never seen some of the things that I've seen, and you haven't experienced it in a competition like arena when it comes from a business perspective. You've never competed. You don't understand what this is like. You have no clue what it's like. You don't know what it's like to actually hire people and then pay them, and then the requirements that come along with it, depending on what state that you're in. You don't know what it's like to actually build something from scratch and then understand each and every intricate detail in order to make an informed decision when somebody is asking you on a coaching call and they sending you their good God-earned money and they asking you for advice, and then you are robbing them because you're not giving them proper information because you don't know. You have no clue on how to coach somebody when it comes to a relationship because you've never truly been successfully married. So you're robbing them when they pay you their hard-earned money for a coaching session because you can't give them any game or real idea. You just spitting, regurgitating things that you heard somebody else say. You've never actually done it. So when you sit there and you kick it with your OGs, and this is why no matter what we talking about, whether we playing a video that talks about cash, I can deep dive in a way that they never could. I can break it down in a way that they never could in real time, not in a pre-recorded video, in real time, because I actually live this every single day. They're competing, and when you think that they're getting the tax breaks, they're not. They're competing under the same rules as you, but they're able to finesse the game a little bit differently because they understand how the government then substantiates whether or not they're making money, and they prevent themselves from having to pay the same amount of money in taxes and upfront costs, along with being able to leverage the social services that come with the federal government and then being able to make even more money off of it by robbing the taxpayers and getting the money that they need in order to start their business by going over to Sam's Club and getting a whole bunch of money and benefits that they then leverage in order to sell you a product at a cheaper price than you can sell it because you're doing it the right way. That's the difference. That's the difference. And this is one of the reasons why businesses don't want cash to go away. If I'm in the federal government, I want cash to go away because then I can be able to track and better understand where the money is leaking out and how we need to run the federal government like a business. We can have a smaller government, but a more efficient government that then helps the people because they have a better system to understand exactly what it is that they should and shouldn't do. When we make decisions in any business, we make a decision based off of data and experience. I could tell you exactly what day of the week it's going to pop off and what day of the week we need to let people go home. That's the difference. That's the difference. Let me continue to play the video.
For at least a decade.
U.S. government is very much engaged in electronic commerce in addition to being the entity that prints cash.
In terms of electronic transactions, replacing cash, no. Cash always has an important and valuable spot.
So what's wrong with U.S. cash, and how can we fix it? The $1 bill was the most popular currency in the U.S. for years. But in 2017, for the first time in history, the $100 bill surpassed the one. And today, 18.5 billion $100 notes are in circulation. $1 bills are the second most circulated at 14.3 billion notes, and $2 bills are circulated the least at 1.5 billion.
The $100 comes from U.S. currency being a global currency. And a lot of those hundreds are outside the country, and they're being used for store of value.
Some speculate that the rise in $100 bills in circulation may also be to avoid taxes or for illegal activity, since...
Did I not just say that? Did I? No, there's not a suspicion behind it. It's true. There's not a suspicion behind it. It's true. That's one of the reasons. Listen, they're leveraging the currency against their own currency in order to value it and then raise it up and down. In order to do that, you got to have something to measure against, right? The second thing is people want cash to stay in circulation because it allows for them to keep more money in their pocket, similar to the way that I just explained it to you.
Cash can be traded anonymously.
I think the other argument is somebody involved in illegal activity will find a way to get around not having $100 bills.
Credit cards or electronic payments of any type, there's a way to track them.
But I do understand wanting to be fully anonymous as you go about your day, and cash does provide that.
They don't want their wife to know they spent $200 on a coin for collectors, for example.
And in the past, accessibility has...
That's how y'all gonna get caught up with y'all side chicks. Because all of the credit card payments is going over to the hotel room. Yeah, people need that cash. They need that cash.
Determined what currency Americans choose.
The $2 bill has lost its place in everyday usage. It was left out of the vending machine market. Denominations like the $2 bill.
Toy says, I'm seeing a lot of restaurants saying they are cashless. What are the dope boys going to do? Well, the reasons why the restaurant said that they cashless is to prevent people from stealing. It's to prevent the employees from pocketing the cash. Because a lot of times, if you work at a place long enough, you start to automatically know what the prices are, even when tax is in it. And then they just throw the money right in their pocket instead of even punching it into the register. So if you a customer and you walk in every day and your meal is $15.60, and you automatically come in with that cash, they automatically know exactly what to give you back, and then they pocket it for themselves. So when you cash out your register, you just take the difference. Or you just throw it right into your pocket. But the reason that they go cashless, Toy, is because it's harder for people to steal if you're not trading in cash, because everything is electronic, and so your transaction has to be conducted in a certain way in order to do so.
Or the $half coin, because there was no space made in the actual cash registers, they became less popular. In the 1960s, the $half lost its place because it wasn't included in the use of parking meters.
The Federal Reserve has also ended production of currency before and tried to change different denominations.
America used to make things called half cents. The penny wasn't always the lowest denomination of coin.
Bills over $100, like the $500, $1,000, and $5,000, were discontinued in 1969 because they were rarely spent. And at that time, checks and credit card payments were on the rise.
In the late 1960s, the Bureau of Engraving and Printing called the Treasury, and the Treasury called the Federal Reserve, say, if we're going to print these bills again, we have to make new plates. There was a debate going on at the highest levels. And they thought, nobody's going to use cash in 10 years.
And 6 in 10 Americans say convenience is key to spending. The U.S. Treasury oversees both the Bureau of Engraving and Printing, responsible for paper notes, and the U.S. Mint, where coins are made. The 2023 budget to produce paper bills is $931.4 million. About 28% of that goes to paper, ink, and labor, while 63% goes to manufacturing overhead, general support, research, and engraving.
They doing the same thing. Look at this. The cost to produce money is not the actual money itself. The cost to produce money is mostly based off of labor and then research and engraving. Paper, ink, labor, 25%, manufacturing, overhead, research and engraving is 63%. The cost of money has nothing to do with the paper that is printed on. It has everything to do with our belief in it, but it's also associated with the cost to be able to produce it, the effort that it takes to be able to produce it, and also prevent people from being able to scam from it. So that's what also gives it its value.
Overhead, general support, research, and engraving. The Fed says U.S. bills are made to last with a 25% linen, 75% cotton blend, and that it takes 4,000 double folds before a banknote will tear. But many countries have moved their lower currency denominations to coins to help with longevity.
A metal dollar will last about 30 years in circulation. How many of us have gone to a vending machine and tried to use a dollar bill and had to feed it in 5 or 6 times? You don't need to do that with a coin.
The rest of the world makes coins usually for $1 to $2. It's hard to find a paper note below 5 American dollars in most developed countries.
Japan's 500 yen coin is equivalent to about 3.5 US dollars, and Australia and Europe use 1 and 2 coins in place of notes. But the US has tried switching to coins before.
In the 1920s, the Treasury reintroduced the $1 silver dollar and the $2 bill because it'll save money. $1 coins last a long time. $2 bills, you only have to print half as many as the ones. It didn't go over at all. Then they tried it in the 1960s under the Kennedy administration. People didn't want $1 coins and $2s except to save as a souvenir. People have thought about reviving the 500 and cut the production by 5, save money. Nobody's gone for it.
The Fed also says transitioning to coins is inefficient and costly.
The argument for the $1 coin, it was cheaper over the long run. But over time, there were upgrades, various additives and varnishes. So now the $1 bill, I think, has a life close to 6 years.
And why has every other country done it? Why has Canada done it? Why has England done it? Why has all of Europe done it? Why has Japan done it?
Australia, the UK, and other countries have also moved from paper to polymer notes.
Since 1988, when Australia issued the first polymer notes, they've become very popular in the rest of the world.
For not going to polymer, a linen cotton note has a certain feel to it. And since this is a global currency, someone inside or outside of the US may not realize if this is a counterfeit or not.
Some experts claim that the Fed's choice to print paper notes is a waste of money, fueled by special interests.
Vendors hire lobbyists to make sure that the mint buys the same type of alloy for their coins. Or in the case of paper, it's a major part of their production. If they lose that production, they lose jobs. As an organization, they lose power.
I hate the fact that everything is incentivized except special interests. Oh my God, they're going to lose jobs over here. Oh my God. Oh, this person, he's the paper manufacturer, and I know the paper manufacturer, or I know the CEO of the paper manufacturer. We got to make sure that he's taken care of. This is how politics become corrupt. It's because they're not doing the thing that's in the best interest of the people. They looking out for the people that they like and how it's going to suit their interests that goes along. I don't even like the fact that people have lobbyists. I don't like lobbyists. I don't like the fact that people are incentivizing and campaign contributions and PACs and all of this stuff. It just muddies the water, and that's where corruption comes in. Because anytime that you start introducing special interests into something, it then makes it more corrupt. Let me move forward a little bit.
Modernizing cash is not easy.
Banknotes are extremely complex instruments. And then there's buried deep inside the note various tags.
And innovation is changing the way we use cash.
Those technological advances are what's really going to influence people's lives for the better.
Making cash something that can carry value electronically, connecting notes to the blockchain.
The Shiba dog.
Many businesses support electronic and cash options, plus innovative ways to bridge the gap.
If you still transact in cash, but you need to buy or want to buy something online, get a QR code. There's a variety of stores that will do this. Scan the QR code, pay in cash, and they release your merchandise.
No, I ain't doing all of that. What are you talking about? You crazy? See, it's not. This is where user experience comes in, and this user experience is everything. It's not just the application. It's the ATMs that you use. It's the way you pay. Businesses are accepting all forms because they need to be able to survive, and so they'll take the money any way that they can get it. It's in their best interest to accept whatever it is. So when you see a business make an adjustment, whether they say that, hey, we a cashless business, it's because they want to make sure that they keep more money in their pocket because they know their employees, they want to prevent their employees from stealing. If they say that we accept all forms of payment, it's because they want to make sure that they make as much money as possible because they don't want to turn any customers away, right? Everything business related is incentivized in order to make sure that you add money into the business. It's not that they're just embracing it. It's that they're adapting with the times to make sure that they can make as much money possible.
Your electric bill comes, you can go to a Walgreens and pay that bill with cash.
And cash is cheaper. I got my haircut today, $22, but they had a 4% surcharge if I used a card.
There are a lot of people that use cash because they don't want to spend money they don't have.
New York City and Philadelphia are even requiring businesses to accept cash.
Legislation being passed that cash must be available and that you cannot have a purely cashless store.
However, with the exception of changes to state law, the Fed says businesses are free to determine what method of payment to accept.
To access digital mechanisms would need to be ubiquitous, either through a
I don't think that we getting away from cash anytime soon. I know a lot of people say that we going over into a cashless society, but it's too many people that have a interest in keeping it the way that it is for us to move that way. Plus, you got rappers that always had a money phone, right? How we gonna do a money phone with a cashless society? How you gonna do a money phone? How the strippers gonna strip in the strip club if you not throwing ones in the strip club? I think that it's too many industries that make money and it's getting too lucrative for people to be able to do so. How you gonna throw money in the club with a cashless society? You can't. I believe that cash is going to be around for a long time. I don't think that we're getting away from it in my lifetime personally. Because the federal government is incentivized to do so, but they can't do it without the adoption of the people or the embracing of the people. And it's too many industries that's interdependent on it in order for them to be successful. Is this the truth? Give her a card reader for her waist belt. Most dudes that's in the strip club don't even want people to know that they in the strip club in the first place. So why would they want an electronic footprint as to where they went? You know what I'm saying?